We are live.
Hello.
Richard, we can't hear you. Now your predictions, Heinz, is going to be
fantastic.
True. Okay, hear you.
And welcome everybody to Hash Sales EU. Slight technical difficulty there called human man-machine interface issue, or what's known as the mute button. Thank you very much for joining us, Hans. Hans, you're the CEO or Managing Director for our European offices at Pipeline CRM. So it's great to have you on. But before that, in fact, you've worked for HP. You're a CRM expert and, in fact, helped to introduce CRM as a concept into the Austrian region, as I understand it.
Yes, that's true.
Brilliant. Now, your Twitter tag is at HE Fischer. So HE, I'm assuming, stands for Heinz Fischer rather than High Explosive Fischer.
That's correct. That's Heinz.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, why don't you start this off with just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I came from, I studied business administration. Then I started off in the IT area. First in the bank industry, then computer industry, and since 1999, I'm involved in CRM.
Wow.
Doing this with compact computers at that time, then HP, and since then, this was 2003, I guess, I was self-employed, being a consultant, doing projects with customers. So it brought me a lot around, learning many different industries, also different systems, and since almost 4 years now, I'm working with Pipeliner.
Oh, fantastic! So that's quite a long career there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're going to be talking to us today about marketing automation and how it can support the sales process. So I guess over the years where you've been involved with multiple CRMs, you've had to actually apply the marketing principles and help the sales process along.
Right, that's true. I mean, starting off with marketing automation, you can see it as a subset of CRM because it tries to get in touch with your customers, with your prospects, to communicate with them, and also to get engagement from them. So also the individualization of the content is part of the CRM idea, so to speak. So it handles or it targets on the definition, on the scheduling and segmentation and tracking of campaigns, so to speak, and of course measuring the outcome of them.
Absolutely.
But the real target is to nurture a prospect into a happy customer or buying customer. So this is the real thing, which you can certainly do one-on-one with sales or any people in the company, but you will not waste sales resources in doing these kind of things, which you can automate. And this is exactly what marketing automation is about. So it connects a couple of or multiple touch points you have on your website or in your company and tries to combine them to find out about habits of your prospects, to know what they are looking for, what is the interest, and where do they stand in their life cycle, so to speak.
Absolutely. So I guess that's where, I mean, internally we obviously use HubSpot. So we've of course got lead scoring, etc., to help with that process and measure the behavior on our website, at least, or digitally, of prospects and customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's one important buzzword since a few years around. It's called inbound marketing.
Yes.
So in the past, we were used to somehow get some addresses, buy bunches of addresses, and try to cold call, cold email them, and try to find a real interested prospect in the population of the world, which is the other way around. So what we are trying now to do with inbound marketing is to have attractive content on our website to let them who are interested find us. And then once they found us, try to nurture them through the process.
Okay, that makes sense. So we had this conversation last week, though. We were talking about how somebody downloads an ebook, let's say from our website, and then you've got the whole thing where people turn around and then start immediately calling them. Mm-hmm. And the discrepancy between, okay, you've got some interesting content like we have, between that and saying, okay, I'm now at the point where I want to buy something, or in fact I am in fact interested at all in buying something, because just because I like your content doesn't mean to say that I do turn around and want to buy something from you, particularly in our industry where there's a lot of issues with sales process, for example. So you'll get a lot of sales managers, sales directors going to the website to educate themselves, which is fantastic, and it creates a following for us, which is good.
Yeah.
But how do we move them from that point into somebody who wants to buy, or how do we notify people from that whole, I've downloaded an ebook, I've read some content, into I'm ready for something more than that?
I think this comes up with, I mean, you give them the content, they do the commit action, as we say, so you know who they are, really. Yep. You have the contact record in your database, and you know when the people are coming back to your site, do things in all the channels that that marketing automation is combining. And now, I think the special thing about this is to find out who is really a buying person, who is in the market for searching for a solution of his problem. Absolutely. And there, you have to think about in terms of who are the buyers. I mean, it's not like talking to the sales guys and say, what is the typical buyer you are selling things to? Because you would end up with a couple of different personas, as we say, which is not a guidance for marketing. To define the buying persona is really to go off and put on the shoes of the people that have that problem that you are trying to solve with your product. And once you define that, you might look at people that recently bought something from you, and you would adjust this picture or profile. And then when you have that profile, you might be able to define the necessary information at what step it should be sent out to the people, and what are the criteria to find out what is the right thing to talk to them. So it's like seeding. If you take a seed, put it into the earth, you would avoid putting it or exposing it to heavy rain or snow or whatever. So you have to treat a little tree in the way a little tree needs to be treated in order to grow.
Absolutely, I think that's great. Let's move on to question one, because that's because otherwise we're talking very much around it at the moment anyway. Okay. So question one is, what is marketing automation and why is it important for sales? And I think we've partially begun to answer that already. But
some of the things I already answered. Well, as the marketing automation is really key for, let's say, finding or once the prospect found your website or your products, your company, to help them nurture it through the process. So it's a lead qualification process mainly involved in this. And you might be able to find people that are really not just interested in your content, but also in the solutions you provide. So doing this process, at some point in time, you might be able to hand over a qualified or pre-qualified lead to sales, which is then exactly what needs to be done by sales. They should further qualify and detect opportunities to the or for the prospect to make him a happy customer.
Absolutely, and I think it's that sales and marketing alignment which is critical to most organizations.
Exactly. Yeah. So it can help a lot in order to get the right prospects to involve sales to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're looking at that, what's the sort of measures that should be in place when you're going from marketing automation into sales? How do we coordinate those two elements? Because typically, of course, marketing always throw these leads over to sales, and sales turn around. Apparently, they don't chase them up. Never seen it myself. And of course, sales turn around and say, well, the marketing leads that we're getting, that they're not very well aligned to what we can actually sell. They're rubbish, is what they actually say. So how do we turn around and use the marketing automation to make sure that the lead coming in has got a better probability of being sold to?
Well, for example, in our case, it's really our business case, which we have in Pipeliner. We have a lot of content out the website. We do a lot of SEO So people finding us. Just a few statistics. In April 2013, we had 12,000 unique visitors during the month. Now we are heading for almost 50,000. So there was a lot done in getting our website organically onto the first page of the search engines and these kind of things. So people find us, they find our content obviously valuable, because we have also already conversions from visitors to contacts. So they download ebooks, they do the commit action, we know who they are, and then we can monitor what they are doing on our website. And at some point in time, they think our product is what they probably need to solve their problem. And then they do the commit action to download the trial, to register for a trial. And this is the point where we say, this is a sales qualified lead. So before that point in time, in our case, it doesn't make sense to bring them into sales. Because at this point in time, we don't know if they are really looking for a solution or just the content.
Yeah, I think with the right marketing automation and CRM combined together, you can have great sales and marketing alignment. And one of the key aspects for myself is it allows you to measure the gap between the two. And if you have good sales and marketing alignment, of course, the statistics is the chance of the lead closing goes up by 62%, which is a huge figure if you think about the closure ratios, just because if you've got good sales and marketing alignment. And that for me, it's ultimately the goal in sales is to take it from a sales qualified lead and close it. And with those figures, that's well worth doing. Now, we've got a quick question from Mick here. Is marketing and automation not just a controversial term? We want to have conversations with our client.
No, it's not a controversial. I think there are processes in marketing also with the possibility to have individual content sent out or communicated to the prospect that is able to automate. And if you go further the road, having all the criteria that you can measure, like scoring, because a prospect was on a certain page on your website or did certain actions on your whatever channels, you might find out that this person is in a different lead cycle stage than you probably others are. And from there you can start automated processes to start communication. Even you can change database entries by automation. All these kind of things. So it helps a lot in order to find really the person that are in that stage and act accordingly.
Yeah, I think there's a fear, particularly in social selling circles, of the term automation, when in actual fact automation itself isn't a bad thing. Automation can make you more efficient, and that's the key aspect, I think, with marketing automation. If you use it badly, then of course it's going to go horribly wrong. If you use it sensibly and wisely, then of course you can turn around and make sure that the customer is getting more tailored content specific to them, and that puts the content you're delivering in context. And contextual information going to the customer, I think, is a good thing, and it allows you to be more engaged with them as a natural result. And I also think turning around and saying, you know what, it's not ready for our sales team yet, because we know the indicators to show that, is fantastic, because that does, from a social selling point of view, means you're not going to have to call them and do the whole hard-nosed sales pitch effectively.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. Let's move on to question 2.
Okay.
What are the requirements to do marketing automation?
Well, as I said, marketing automation is about connecting multiple touch points in your channels to find out about the needs of the customer, to learn about his behavior, and exactly find where he stands in his life cycle. So without having those channels available on the internet, in social media, a website, all these kind of things, you have to rely on analog media, or maybe marketing or email marketing, which is just one little part of the automated communication. So prerequisites, in my opinion, is you have to have a website, you have to have content, you have to have social media engagement, or at least do things on social media in order to be able to also integrate this channel. All these kind of things you need to have. The more, the better. And then you can start automating the processes.
Absolutely. I think it's like anything, and it's actually Todd Martin of your Pipeliner has also just commented, before you implement any marketing automation, make sure that you have your goals set and what your clear strategy is. I think you're absolutely right. You know, the reality is that marketing automation is a digital tool. Digital means having a website, having a social presence, etc. Then turning around and having a clearly defined set of goals for your marketing automation is where you need to start, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we will come to the point where we talk about matrices, measurements, what are the criteria.
Yeah, absolutely.
Later on.
Let's move on to question 3.
Okay.
What's the difference between marketing automation and email marketing automation?
Well, marketing automation is the big thing, and email marketing is just a subset of it. So every marketing automation tool has email marketing capabilities built in.
Okay.
So you're able to run email campaigns, you're able to measure on click rates, you're able on measuring on open rates and all these kind of things. So all the things you can do with any email marketing system, you can do with marketing automation as well. But there's a lot more you can do with marketing automation. And if you only use marketing or email marketing, you miss a great part again to find out about the behavior.
So what are the key aspects then in marketing automation that it has, which email automation doesn't? Because obviously we've got Marketo, Eloqua, HubSpot, Right On Interactive. You know, there's a whole bunch of marketing automation tools out there. And equally, you've got on the email side, Constant Contact, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, etc. There's a whole host of just email-only campaigns as well. And the cost difference is quite large. So what's the difference?
The difference is, I mean, you integrate, first of all, your website. You have a tracking script on the website. So whenever somebody is doing a commit action on your content, registering for an ebook or for a newsletter or whatever, you will be able to know exactly when he is back on your website or on your blog or anything else like this. And from there, you can constantly see what's going on in terms of conversion or visits, all these kind of things. So this, in terms of automation, can trigger anything you would like to see in marketing automated, which is not able in email marketing systems.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know how true that is, because if I'm looking at things like MailChimp, these days they are becoming smarter and smarter, and they begin to turn around and they can automatically tweet out, send it to a Facebook page, a LinkedIn profile, etc. So from that perspective, that they are getting much smarter, and they're not necessarily just email, I would guess, is the answer. So rather than just
not just email, but the capabilities of automating things is much bigger, obviously, in marketing automation tools. And also, all the criteria you have available is much bigger, much broader.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think for myself, if I think about some of the tools I've used, then being able to define those buyer personas and map those back to individuals and campaigns to be associated with them, I think is fantastic. And if I then, obviously you can do the outbound email, you can do the outbound digital social aspects, but if you then turn around and talk about lead scoring for predictive lead scoring, that's fantastic. And of course, you can also dynamically change your website. And in actual fact, I've seen some very clever websites who's just got basic elements, for example, where you go to their website, it turns around, recognizes automatically you're from the UK, and it says you've got 5,000 other people in the UK who use our software, and the quotes are for customers who are happy are all from your geographical area, basically. I think that's
I think the geographical area is not the big issue, because you have an IP address which you obviously pass on to the provider, but they would be even capable of showing individual things connected to your person, to your contact record, because you're identified individually. they can really greet you with "Hi, Richard."
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like that.
Big
Without
brother is
logging in.
watching. Yeah, yeah.
We
No,
have
so
a question, Heinz. Sorry for interruption. Mick is asking or saying there is a clear link between social selling and marketing automation, but where do they overlap?
I don't really know where they overlap, but there is a huge link, obviously, because it is very interesting from the marketing automation perspective when you combine the channels, the communication channels, to see what's going on the website or on social media. So it's interesting to know maybe okay, your article was retweeted by somebody, or whatever page of the website was posted in any social media or anything like that. So this is, I think, the connection where those two come together.
Okay.
yeah, I think it's when you talk about inbound marketing, I think that goes hand in hand with social selling to a large extent. So, you have to have good content to be able to drive people towards. And
Right.
if you turn around and say, I'm always going to be posting other people's information, then you're never going to get them being drawn towards your website, which of course includes certain call to actions, etc., which you've got there. And also, if you're going to be a thought leader, then if you're not generating your own content, how are you a thought leader within that social selling space?
Yeah.
So to a large extent, it's great from a social selling to share information with other people, but ultimately, from a sales perspective, it's about trying to capture their details and get them into your system.
Exactly.
At the point where you can turn around and predictively say they're ready to start buying, and then you can turn around and turn them over to sales to do the selling element.
Yeah, that's it.
And in the meantime, just help them as much as you can.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Right, so how does the marketing automation support the sales process?
Well, the sales process starts with the leads. You have to qualify them. As we already talked about, lead qualification is really one of the major aspects, I think, in terms of what can marketing automation somehow automate in order to get things done in a very efficient way. But also throughout the other parts of the life cycle, it's very necessary or very good to have marketing automation. Think on a qualified lead that's already in the touch of sales. You could be able to measure the temperature of your opportunity once you already have an opportunity in order to find out what's the likelihood of this opportunity contact to buy things from you. Because if you see during the sales process, okay, this guy was on this page of my website or on that page of my website, or you're able to send certain informations, white papers, when a certain sales stage is crossed. And you also measure on opening rates or anything like that on an individual basis of your contact of the opportunity, then you know, okay, this is most likely a very good opportunity and very likely to sell or make the sales. So this is one or the next aspect for helping the sales process with marketing automation. But there's also another thing after you make the sale, because engagement is all about engagement. So once you close the deal, you better not turn around and go to the next prospect and leave the one who just bought alone. So there should be a constant interaction that can be automated with marketing automation as well. So even for existing customers, to make them happy, to bring them into a stage where they are even evangelists.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the core differences is, of course, that the sales process stops at the sale effectively, or perhaps continues for a little way on. Particularly if you're talking about referral marketing, you can continue into account management. But of course, marketing automation should be available and utilized throughout the entire life cycle of the customer. And
Exactly.
that's very much more than the sales process.
Yeah, that's true.
as we're talking about sales and the sales process, that's the bit we're really concerned with. I particularly like the idea of marketing automation, which I see so few organizations doing, where you can capture the leads which have dropped out of your sales process, and it's often known as the leaky funnel, where you turn around and, naturally people enter at different stages, they also drop out at different stages, or they go dormant as they make no decision, etc. Having the ability to turn around and capture those stalled deals, etc., or the ones where you lose them, and particularly with CRM, for example. So if they go to one of our competitors, if it's a cloud-based competitor, it's the annual renewals, etc. So in which case, don't lose that information. Keep contact. Marketing automation. The sales guys are never going to keep on top of them because they just don't have the time. That's the reality. And the short-term focused. Put it back into a nurturing track with irrigation marketing, where you're turning around and saying, these leads, which we've paid a lot of money for, because we've worked them, the data's good, we know it's good, keep going at them. Don't just drop it.
Exactly. This is exactly the right approach. And here's also where nurturing or scoring comes in, because the scoring values, they can have a lifetime. So if the deal is for a long time not touched or whatever, or the people are not going to the website again, or things like that, you might want to drop their score rate,
absolutely,
score value, and start from somewhere else, because your nurturing campaigns, they are not constant throughout the years. You work on them. You have different information with the involvement of your products. The products get better, more features. So you will also evolve your information you're telling to the people. So you can start at the same point with completely different information, maybe. And knowing that this guy was already a lead at some point might give you another information to even give other information to the guy.
Absolutely, particularly if the sales guys are smart enough to turn around and say why they lost it in some sort of machine-readable format, then of course you can easily go back from a marketing point of view and say, the thing you asked for? We've gone ahead and done it for you. And that makes the customer feel special, which I think is absolutely fantastic way of saying, this is how we're going to do it. I also think, going back to the lead scoring, which you mentioned, that of course from a sales perspective really helps me, because I can turn around and say, this is a deal I should be chasing and spending time with, or this is a deal with a low score. You know what? I'll get to it when I get to it, but there are other higher priority deals to do.
Right. It's all about focusing your energy on the right things, and marketing automation should help you with. There is one other aspect for existing customers, which can be utilized by marketing automation. It's customer surveys, for example.
Yes.
There are integrations out there, especially with HubSpot, for example, where we can run surveys with the customers and integrate the results into HubSpot. So we know exactly what the result is on an individual level.
Yeah.
In our database, which is great, I think. And if this information is brought over to sales, especially when it comes to renewals, as you mentioned, then you know exactly what the customer thinks.
Yeah, from an account management point of view, that's critical, because then you can start to do sentiment analysis and a lot of different things as well, which is pretty critical, I think.
Yeah.
So moving on to question 5. What does a well-defined lead qualification process look like?
Well, if you sense all the channels you have, then it is you come across a momentum where you know exactly what are the criteria that somebody is really buying or most likely buying or into your products or whatever.
Yeah.
So the bad thing is that this is not a path you can go through without looking left to right. So the conversion path is very individual, but you know exactly the points where to go when certain criteria come up. But the sequence might be different. And this is where the lead qualification comes in. You have many triggers throughout the whole life cycle, and you can start triggering whenever something is going in this direction that you should communicate in this matter or in this manner to the customer. At some point in time, there will be all criteria met, and then you are really at the qualification stage where you say, okay, this guy is now really ready for sales. So it depends on your business model, what you have. In our case, if somebody comes in really searching for a CRM solution for sales, he will most probably go to our website and try the software without going in and reading our content. Maybe later, at a later stage, he would be reading our content. But first is the trial, and then the rest. Others might do it differently. They might come to our library, download ebooks, 1, 2, 3, whatever, and then with nurturing them, sending them additional information, what is necessary for running a good sales process, whatever, we might bring them to the trial, to start the trial. And this is, the criteria is met then. So it's not the same process you can use for qualification, but there are certain criteria that makes it a qualified lead.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned there that for ourselves, for Pipeliner,
yeah,
the first action they tend to take is to download a trial.
Could be.
Could be. Okay, cool.
Could be. So if this is the case, it's obviously a sales qualified lead in our speak.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can hand them over right away. But if people are firstly coming to our website, to a blog, reading blogs, subscribing to the blogs, subscribing to ebooks, they might want to first read about what is sales about, what is the sales process, and so on. And then maybe at a later stage be nurtured to, okay, we have a tool for you if you look into this.
Absolutely. The call to actions throughout the content that we're producing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. So would you recommend that at the point where you're turning around and driving people to your content, you obviously at some of these events you're going to capture their details, such as with white papers, etc. Mm-hmm. Should you be calling them straight away as a salesperson, or should you wait? What should you do at that sort of scenario?
Well, I don't think that is, I mean, we had many discussions internally about this process, and I think it depends, coming back to the buyer persona, what is the ideal customer looking for at this stage where a download of an ebook is his first interest? He might want to read first and not be called by sales and asked questions if you would like to buy the product. You know, it depends on your buying persona and what is the process. So you have to make your mind up and talk to the people and find the right track they would go. And if downloading a white paper or whatever product information is the point to start sales, talking to this guy, then it's fine. You can do it. But in our case, I wasn't sure if this is the right way. That's why we had this discussion. So I think we're still there where we say, okay, having a trial user or somebody trialing our software, this is a clear sign he's looking for a solution.
Absolutely.
But not only downloading an ebook.
Yes, I think that's true. I guess one of the advantages of using marketing automation is you can then start to do A/B testing. So then you can find out what the real implementation is and what the results are thereafter. So does the white paper work for getting people into the system for sales, or is it just simply a question of it's good content? And how many pieces of content do you need to download to then pass it over to sales to chase?
Yeah, I think there should be also some of a guidance. You have the content. The content might be related to the solution of your product. So you can make the bridge between those two. And you will then see if the customer jumps on this train, you might find out through marketing automation. And if that's the case, then it's worthwhile to have sales calling him.
Absolutely, I think.
But maybe not before.
Yeah. Well, you see, I think it's interesting. You need to measure it and work out for yourselves, I think, what your particular customers and prospects want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the norm seems to be somebody downloads a white paper, therefore sales gets handed it, and you call them straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I talk to anybody, everybody's infuriated by this approach. They get annoyed at it. No, your content is good. That doesn't make me a prospect for you. And then sometimes it's hard to get rid of them, and that's not quite what you signed up for.
Yep,
exactly. Of course, in the age of social selling, where we're trying to be trusted advisors, that kills the salesperson from becoming a trusted advisor from day one, because the immediate perception is that they're a nuisance call.
Yep.
So I think I think you need to work it out, and you need to measure it and do some A/B testing and find out where your customers are ready to go, whether they're ready to be called or not called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to question 6. One of the core benefits of marketing automation is lead nurturing. What are the keys to a successful nurturing campaign?
Well, part of it is already discussed. I think it's like growing the seeds. It's a funnel. You have the top of the funnel. You have the visitors to your website, very anonymous. You want to get them to somehow get or subscribe to your offers. So this is the beginning where you try to find out, okay, in what stage is this person, bringing the right information at the right time to the person. For example, if you're looking for a television device, it's not really good to inform the people how a power plant is built up in order to have the less electricity to run this TV. The people would like to know how to, or what is the benefit of this product. So it always depends on where the people stand, but what is their problem? How likely are they to dive into your ecosystem or whatever, and giving them the right information. So again, I'm coming back to this buyer persona, because it's really a very relevant term here. You have to have one set of criteria that make your ideal buyer, and when these criteria are met, you will recognize this person.
Yes.
And this is exactly what it is with the nurturing campaigns. You need to be able to detect those criteria, and then you're there. Then you know exactly this guy is really there to buy a solution for his problem.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Once you have the buyer persona, you can then, know the type of content that you've got to deliver to them over time, right, and when as well. Mm-hmm. So therefore that content gets tailored depending on the buyer persona.
Yeah.
Which the buyer persona becomes everything, really. And without that, you don't really understand who your prospects are and who your customers right. are, mm-hmm. and the solution you're trying to offer.
Mm-hmm. I found a very good quote, as I think, on the web. When you know how to help buyers evaluate your approach on their own terms, you build a bond of trust that competitors can't match.
Absolutely, yes. I think actually I'm not entirely going to agree with that, because I don't find that all prospects know exactly how to move forward with their decision-making process.
That's also true.
Yeah, but yeah, certainly if they know the process that they want to go through, then you certainly need to align with them, and mm-hmm. you need to turn around and bring them with you, or walk with them effectively and give them direction. I think there was an article I read recently which turned around and said the first salesperson who offers value to the customer or the prospect is the person they are most likely to stick with and go with. So at the early stages, you need to turn around and present value to them. And that's the way you're going to do that, is by coaching the correct content, using the correct terminology that's in context with what they're looking for to solve their problems.
Yeah, Right, that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny actually, because for me it's if you look at the older style sales methodologies where solution selling and consultative selling was talking about those aspects, that is all about turning around and showing the customer how to get value. And if you look at the old spin selling from Neil Rackham, of course, that's about asking the correct questions so that you can then present that to the customer. Now, obviously, that no longer gives you a direct competitive advantage, only because I believe that the solution selling has been taken to the nth degree, and it's now effectively a bundle rather than a solution. So I think they've lost the core of what it was driving towards. But I think that was always about giving value and presenting that to the customers, and that's why it worked well. In the same as spin selling is about extracting the right questions from the customer to understand what their real issues are, so that you can present them with a valuable solution.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Let's move on to question 7. What kind of behavior-based campaigns can companies automate?
Well, I think there are a bunch of possibilities. And as I said, the road from prospect to customer is not a straightforward, not a straight line. I think it is worth splitting it up in little bunches or in little buckets or modules where you can start whenever a certain criteria is met and you sense, okay, now the guy is in this position and you should act on this and give this information to the people to correct or to help him to give value, as we said. So this would be, you can automate a lot of things where you have predefined content. You can even have variations on a content, but the variations should be limited. So it is not an individual communication, because then you obviously need to have a manual interaction by sales or by anybody else. But if the variations are there already, you can launch them whenever they are necessary to be launched. So this is basically, you can trigger little campaigns. It must not be a multi-level campaign for 2 years, and there's no way to get out or something, which maybe was in the past the way to go. You can have little small campaigns that are triggered by workflows, and the workflows are triggered by some criteria you have in your database. It depends on the tool. What are the things you can do with the tool? HubSpot delivers a whole bunch of possibilities to trigger certain things. It might be a value in the score or a score value threshold. It might be a certain page visited. It might be a specific value in your contact record that is set by some other workflow. So you can construct a lot of things to trigger campaigns, or even don't trigger them if it's not appropriate.
Absolutely. I think with most of the marketing automation, the behavior you want to track, first of all, you've got to turn around and you've got to work out what the end goal is.
Yeah.
And then you've got to turn around and map the workflow from point A to the goal, which has several different steps within it, and you can turn around and do small things or big things within them. But I think with each step you take and you automate, there needs to be a logical chain of events. So if you turn around, and that's where I find a lot of marketing automation workflow falls down, and it's not actually the technology side that falls down, it's the business process side that falls down. So then you're looking at it and you turn around and say, that's fantastic, you've downloaded our white paper, but what's the next step having done that?
Exactly right, yes.
Yeah, so the one you downloaded on sales process, that's fantastic. Now let's talk to you about forecasting. Now let's talk to you how you're going to manage that. Let's talk to you about the fact that Excel won't work. Oh, all of a sudden you're now talking to me about you need our CRM software. And that's the goal, to get you to engage with a salesperson. Yep. I think anyway. And I think half the issue is there is no logical chains. You can have small chains or large chains, and they're not necessarily tied together. It just becomes an email campaign that you send out.
Exactly. That's the point. And that's the difference with marketing automation, basically.
Yeah, and for me as a sales guy, I've also found that a lot of the marketing people I come across talk about marketing automation so that they can try and own 99% of the sales funnel. And in fact, we had some of that discussion last week as well, where it's trying to own as much as possible. For myself, particularly when you turn around and say the buyer journey has and is changing, actually what I want is I want the buyer to potentially turn around and say, actually, you know what, it'd be great if I could speak to one of your consultants, otherwise known as a salesperson, but help them turn around and get that engagement point rather than just sticking within the automation element, so that you've got that engagement which can become a real live person. And I think then you become the trusted advisor as well from a sales guy's point of view, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, let's move on to question 8.
Okay.
Which metrics should we be measuring to determine marketing automation success?
As I said before, you can see the whole thing as a funnel. You start with the top of the funnel. These are the anonymous visitors to your website. You try to engage with them. You get to know them. You get to know their problems, and ultimately they are buying customers. So a bunch of them. Within these borders, you might be able to detect some stages where you can say, okay, I have so many visitors, unique visitors on my website, and how many of them are doing this commit action in 1 month? This would be a measure to say, okay, this is 2%, 10%, I don't know. And you might have more than this stages and have some criteria there or measurements, and how many are turning then into whatever trial users. How many of them are turning into or converting into customers, and so on. So these are the stages where you can really put the measurements on. Obviously, it's not for for all of the stages, it's marketing automation the only relevant aspect. But there might be stages where only marketing automation takes place. And then you can tweak about the content or the process to find out, can I do something about the conversion rate? Can I raise them? What is the reason why it's just 2%? Why is the reason that it's just 5% or something? I think this is what is really necessary to measure here, and I think we will also discuss this later. It's a constant process. You have to tweak and measure, Always go back and turn a few wheels and change the process maybe in order to optimize it.
Okay. So if we're looking at that, obviously you've got some big criteria you can do there. So what would be your top 3 metrics that you'd be looking for?
Lead volume. That's very interesting in terms of search engine optimization, all these kind of things. How many visitors you have, how many can you then convert? So how many are then as a lead measured in terms of converted? The close rate, the time to close, or even in the stages, how long does it take from one stage to the other? Cost per close. If you involve the marketing spendings, then this would be also a very interesting figure to know, okay, for every closed customer, what is the investment I have to take? Or for every sales qualified lead, what is involved in terms of money to get them there? And also the lifetime value of the customer. This would be also a good measure.
Yeah, the LTV, lifetime value of a customer, is obviously a critical one, I think, to have that. Yeah, I think the number of effectively web visitors coming in, that's obviously a fairly easy metric to measure.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the number which convert to what I would describe as marketing leads, that's relatively easy figure to do as well, wherever you set that to be, whether it's they downloaded the ebook or slightly more complex, it's a fairly easy one at the point where you pass it to sales. And of course, I think one of the key things there is actually on close business, because then the revenue element in there, I think having that extend through is a critical thing, because then you've got closed loop thinking. It's not longer just about marketing, not just about sales. It's the whole life cycle.
Exactly.
And I think the drop-off rate of the leads to qualified opportunities is another critical one. Because what I've seen with a lot of organizations is that you get a whole bunch of inbound leads, and if they don't convert into opportunities that the sales guys can close, then it just doesn't matter.
Right.
You can have as many web visitors as you like.
But here's the point where tweaking the process might come in, or tweaking the content. What makes them leave or not convert? This is a very interesting measure. It's not the fault of marketing automation. It's maybe a combination of everything. So it's not attractive. If you are, if you think your product is really solving the problem of those guys, but they don't convert, still don't convert, then something in the communication must be wrong.
Or something with your solution which you thought you're resolving. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You should receive feedback.
We have a question. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Heinz.
Go ahead.
Okay. We have a question because we only have 9 minutes left, and therefore, I have to interrupt you. Sorry for that. Is marketing automation something for small companies? If so, how do you implement this in small companies or businesses? Marketing automation starting at what size company?
You can start at any size. There are programs out there that doesn't cost much. Also, the bigger companies or bigger solutions have some I don't know how to say it. For small companies, cheaper programs. It depends on the functionality you would like to have there, and also on the volume of contacts in your database. That's normally getting the price tag. But you can start very small. The only thing what you have to have is the prerequisite. You have to have the channels in place, at least the website, maybe a blog, or even better, also social media. And obviously, you have to tell something to the customer or to the prospect that is interesting. So any information that you would like to send to the customer should be there, and you should be well received by the prospects in order to do the right things.
Yeah, I would actually argue that for the SMB marketplace, a smaller customer, it's in fact more important to have the marketing automation and CRM tools. Marketing automation can be as big or small as you like, but you have to, as a small organization, be so much more efficient and effective at your job.
Exactly.
Because you don't have the people, and you don't have the money or the resources necessarily that larger companies do. So you need to turn around and automate what you can to be more efficient and effective. So for an SMB, if I was starting another company tomorrow, I would turn around and make it highly automated where I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely true. The point I would like to make for the metrics, it is always said that you have to have a plan, but you have to have also benchmarks in order to know where you stand. There should be industry benchmarks out there where you can measure yourself to. So you find out, are you doing great? Are you doing less good than the average industry standard? All these kind of things. So it's always good to know what is sort of a good measurement or a good metrics you get out of it. Otherwise, you just start anywhere and end up nowhere.
Fantastic. Let's move on to question 9. What internal challenges are you facing with marketing automation?
Well, it's a huge project. It first starts with the implementation project. As any other IT project, you have to have requirements defined. You have to have the selection in place. You select the tool you would like to implement. And then once this is implemented, it does all the things you would like to see that it does. The fun really starts, because then you have to think about the processes, about content, and all these kind of things. And it's not a set it and forget it scenario. It's a constant thing you have to tweak, you have to adjust, you have to work with it. You have to really take this as a living tool that helps you, but it can only help you if you really work with it. And working with it means you have to adjust processes, adjust things you do, all these kind of things.
Okay. I think for myself, it's always it's like CRM. It's easy to call these things an IT project, and certainly there is a degree of that because they are technologies that have been delivered.
Yep.
But I always find that the critical aspect of a CRM implementation, as well as marketing automation, is getting the business goals and the rules correct in the first place. And that's the thought leadership you need from your leadership team to turn around and say, this is what we need to achieve. You know, your CMO needs to say, these are our or delegate the task to make sure somebody comes up with the correct buyer personas, etc. So it is a case of turning around and doing business first for myself, and then the technology has to fit and be right, but to some extent, it's not to some extent, it is secondary to the business process.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it's also with CRM tools, you have to have the buy-in of the employees, of your colleagues, otherwise you can forget it.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to question 10. What are your favorite industry blogs, books, and resources for more information on marketing automation?
Okay, I think this depends on the topic I'm looking for. Every vendor of the bigger vendors, they have lots of very valuable content on their sites and in their blogs, so you can find answers to almost any question. There are good blogs for buyer persona type things you're looking for. There's a specific site, buyerpersona.com. They're having very interesting things if you're in this subject. And of course, our Pipeliner blog.
Absolutely.
It is a very valuable source of information for sales processes and lead nurturing and finding the right leads, all these kind of things.
I'd agree with that. I think if you're looking at those sort of elements, obviously the Pipeliner blog is sales focused, but it's got much more on there than that. We've got lead generation and marketing aspects as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say probably for sales and marketing alignment, which is not just marketing automation, probably my favorite blog has been for a long time Math Marketing. They do a great number of things, Australian company. And on top of that, HubSpot and obviously Marketo and a number of others have fantastic information on their websites.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other resources you think would be good?
Oh, just search the web. I think you find very valuable information for specific topics. And you cannot generalize, I think, on certain blog writers to give you the right information. You have to filter all the information that's available. I think this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think then it would be a case. I would turn around and say, if you're looking for blog resources, etc., then there's a whole bunch of them out there, but make it easy for yourself to turn around and read and go through those. So use something like Feedly or one of the news readers to turn around and bring those all together.
Yep.
I have a question, Heinz. How much time do you invest to find some news for marketing automation? So are you constantly searching for news, or how do you handle that?
Well, in our case, we're using HubSpot. HubSpot does a great job in informing what they have new things on in terms of functionality in their system. And I guess this will be true for every other system as well. And HubSpot is one of the things, they have really a living system. So they increase the functionality almost constantly. And the system which we bought 2 years ago is not the same that we use now. Totally different. They increased functionality in a fantastic way. And I think they have to do it, otherwise they won't be at the top end of the available solutions. Same with Marketo or Loqua. So they will inform you that things are new. You can search for information, you find the information, you can apply the information. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I reserve time, whatever, 3 hours a week to search for new things. It's we have to have a solution for certain problems, and then we go in and search for, well, how can we achieve that?
Okay.
Absolutely. Google is your friend in that case, I think.
Yeah, Google is your best friend.
Very good friend, yes.
Yeah, I think we're
done.
at the end.
Thank you very much for your time, Hans. That's been a pleasure having you on board.
Inviting me.
And it's been great having you as a co-host again, Martha. So thank you everybody for attending Hash Sales at EU, and we will see you next week, 3 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in Central Europe, and of course I believe it's 10 a.m. on the East Coast of America. It's been great having everybody on. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.